And welcome back, everybody. It is Wednesday, or Wednesday as most people call it. It is December the 27th, 2023. Another lovely early winter's day here in Great Falls, Montana. And today's guitar is an IYV ILAP 300. This is their Les Paul style electric acoustic guitar. I do believe this might be the first review on YouTube. They either haven't sold many of these or there haven't been many of them available, but either way, I took a chance. There were no reviews, no written reviews, no video reviews. It just looked like a nice guitar. The price seemed fair. And yeah. So while we get ready to unbox it, you'll notice that it came in the tiny box. Amazon, you sometimes get the tiny box, but you're amazed it even survived shipping. There doesn't seem to be any damage whatsoever on the box other than a small, tiny little dent there. Already the color does not look like what was advertised. Ooh, it's light as a feather. We'll weigh it. It looks darker than what I was anticipating. Not that that's a good thing, not that that's a bad thing. At the end of the day, playability is what matters most. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe call it a honey something. Some kind of honey burst. Oh, honey. Well, I guess that looks about right. The switch is definitely bigger than advertised. Ooh, nice red back. And so we're just going to do the quick It looks pretty sweet, I have to say. Hope it preforms as well. The fret ends feel very good, as every IYV guitar I've ever had does. I'm guessing the picture, that back red is really pretty. You know, IYV guitars are known for their blems, as it were, for the price they sell them for. No crack on the neck. The nut looks like it's done properly. Holy cow! 6 screws on the bridge, so that bridge isn't going anywhere, which is nice. So I'm going to free it from its little wrap on the strings. I'll be right back. Well, it weighs in at a whopping 5.4 pounds. So, preliminary investigation, I see no issues. I try to always go for the obvious. Everything looks like it's glued fine, binding on the neck, binding on the body. The pictures didn't really show that because they were just front pictures. So we're going to go plug it in and play it. Put a battery in it. What's nice about this model, has a nice little battery compartment. Schmutz. Come on, IYV. Don't send your guitars out with schmutz. Got a bit of a divot here. Again, I'm not going to bang on it for schmutz. So we'll be back. Okay, we're back. Again, this is the IYV ILAP 300. And I've just played it for about half hour, 45 minutes. And it's a very interesting guitar, to say the least. The first thing that I had to do, whoever sent it out of the factory, they have, you could call them mini potentiometers or trim adjustments, but they're little tiny sort of potentiometers that are on the inside cavity that you can adjust the volume and the tone. Based on other videos I've seen of similar guitars like this, they have 3. One for volume, one for bass, one for treble. This one only seems to have two. And the adjustment for the piezo, is that how you say it? It's spelled P-I-E-Z-O, so I'm going to pronounce it phonetically, piezo pickup, which is hidden cleverly under the bridge, was way too loud. So it completely overwhelmed the humbucker. So I cracked it open, did a little bit of spinning, and I got them fairly even with each other. I'm sure in the coming days and weeks, some more adjustments might be necessary to fine-tune it. But at this point I've got them fairly even, so when you switch between the piezo to the middle position of both of them and to the bridge, the volumes are pretty even. Certainly not a high gain guitar, although you can put a little bit of crunch on it when you're in the middle position or in the humbucker and get a little bit of, so it works fine. I have to be honest, I'm quite blown away by this guitar, unless there's something that I've missed in my examination of it. It's just really well put together. It sold for $196. I had some points and some courtesy credits with Amazon, so I was able to bring it down to $135. But at $196, and again, the other model that they have, which is the body style is more of a Jazzmaster, and I think they had one that was sort of a Telecaster. To compare this to a $2,000 Fender Acoustasonic would be a waste of time. They're two totally different guitars. The Fender has built-in electronics and features, and it's a Fender, and the wood's probably better. Of course it's better. Don't compare. Just accept this guitar as it is. That it's a nice little acoustic electric guitar. The acoustic properties without being plugged in are zero. I mean, it's certainly louder than a solid body Les Paul style guitar, but you know, again, I don't know how they did this. I have not had time to examine it. That's obviously solid. So, I mean, it feels like it's pretty much a solid guitar other than what they carved out here and here and then in the back. But whatever they did, again, it comes in at 5.3 pounds. It does have a bit of neck dive. If I was designing this guitar, and I'm not, and I didn't, I would have trimmed down the headstock a little bit and made it just a little more compact, because I'm sure that's where the weight is, along with those big giant tuners. But yeah, if you get a strap that has a bit of resistance on it, it's not going to dive too bad, and hey, a little neck dive never killed it. The people that got the Jazzmaster style ones, I don't know what the model number is, said that it had acoustic strings. I don't know if this does or it doesn't, but it has an unwound third. And just based on the gauge and the ability to bend, it feels like it has 10s on it. Might even have 9s, I don't know. But you can certainly bend the strings. It's not like an acoustic guitar where you're just really fighting it, because acoustics usually have 11s or 12s on it. The camera shows, especially with the light on it, a much more, no, not so much. It's a very dark burst. I mean, again, it's very, very similar in color to the IJZ. It's a dark burst. But what's interesting is that the back, they stained it a beautiful cherry, really nice red. And then what's interesting is they did sort of the burst on the neck, which, and then you can tell on the headstock that the cherry color is even lighter. Again, you're going to get, so you get sort of that cherry color, and then they did a burst on the neck for whatever reason, and then the headstock's even a lighter cherry-ish color. Again, a really nice feature versus the Jazzmaster models is they put a separate battery compartment, which is just nice. You can just pop it right open and pop a battery in. I would assume, and maybe correctly or incorrectly, that when you unplug it, the battery is disconnected. I don't know how long the battery will last. What you couldn't see on the pictures on Amazon was that the body's bound, single bind, really nice. The neck is bound. You could sort of tell the neck was bound just because you could see this right here. you couldn't see the sides. And again, they did it in my preferred sort of yellowed. And it might just be my imagination, but the fret markers look slightly aged versus some of the other IYV guitars. They're not quite as white. I guess you would call it parchment. So there. So yeah, value. Wow, I can't believe that they don't have more of these available. I found an article about these when these were just a prototype. The prototype had a much smaller switch. You know, again, in this price range, you expect inexpensive. How could it be anything but? The other thing that's interesting too that the picture didn't show, and the Jazzmaster style guitar has two models, and it has sort of like this cone. They sort of fell asleep at the switch on the finishing, but again, when you're at this price point, tiny little details just really don't matter. Playability does. The neck on this guitar is, I don't want to say thinner. I don't have anything to measure the nut width. It feels like a standard nut width of like 43 millimeters, but the girth of the neck is smaller, which again, if you have big hands, that might not be a good thing. I have smaller hands, so it's extremely comfortable. The strings are a little dingy, as one would expect, traveling all the way from Vietnam, sitting in warehouses. I don't know where this thing travels to, but it was shipped to me from northern Alabama to Great Falls, Montana. So it's gone through some climate changes and stuff, but again, it just, I don't love the wood grain on the wood, but again, I don't hate it either. It's sort of colorful, and it sort of has that lava lamp kind of look to it. Again, at this price point, I wouldn't expect that they're sitting there and pulling their hair out trying to find matched pieces, and you can see that there's a, you know, so it's probably, looks like maybe a three-piece top. The back looks like it's probably, excuse me, it could be 10 pieces for all I can tell. But they matched it nice. But overall, very, very pleased. And it's really, really, really different from anything I have. So from that point of view, you know, again, I feel like just I wanted something different. And I don't expect it to sound like a humbucker Les Paul or, you know, an acoustic guitar. It's like it's sort of its own combination. And, you know, as I fine-tune those trim pots, I guess that's what they're called, spend a little more time. All I wanted to do was to just lower the volume of the bridge, the piezo pickup, because it was just way too loud. So obviously I was able to hit that. I couldn't tell what the other trim pot was doing. It didn't seem to make a big difference in tone. But the fact that I was able to do that, and you know, for what this guitar is, the wiring is clean, but there's a lot of wiring in there. So apparently there's a lot going on in the world of matching a humbucker and a piezo pickup and going to the switch and running battery power, and so I didn't want to mess around in there too much for fear, because a couple people got the Jazzmaster style guitars and said they plugged them in and they were ungrounded and noisy, and this thing's completely quiet. And again, the tone and the volume work fairly well. Neither of the pickups has a lot of power, so you have to turn your amp up a little more, but again, and I feel comfortable in saying that I have not gotten a single IYV guitar that didn't have just incredibly well finished fret-ins. And you know, for their price point, that's really amazing, because I've gotten probably the worst guitar that I got was a Squier Classic Vibe Jaguar. There's an interesting word, Jaguar. And it had the worst fret ends on it. And it wasn't a matter of humidity changing and the fretboard shrinking. They were just really poorly finished. So this really nice. So again, very, very pleased. They show up on Amazon. Again, here's two funny stories. If I put you in a coma, I apologize. But so I originally ordered this back on November the 15th. and I had like $10 in points, so I was willing to spend $185 for it, and I thought, that's great. And again, with the pre-order or the reserve, I don't know what you want to call it, guitars, you never know when you're going to get them. So I ordered it and just figured if it comes in 6 months, that's fine. So then and then they disappeared immediately. I mean, literally, it was available for reserve or pre-order for like a half hour, and then it was just gone. So that's the nature of these guitars. So fast forward 15 days later, November the 30th, it came back on again. And at that point, I had accrued another $25 in reward points. So I canceled the first order and ordered another one, and so now I got the price down to $154. And then when this guitar got actually shipped, which was only 26 days later, which isn't that bad considering sometimes you wait 6 months, the points that I got on my Amazon Visa were another $20, so that's why I was able to, and I will apply that to the purchase price of this, and it'll be $136. And then the other funny story is it left Alabama, it came up to Chicago, and it left Chicago like on the day before Christmas Eve. No, Christmas is on Sunday. Anyways, it just got through the snowstorm in South Dakota and Nebraska, because that's the route it takes from Chicago to Montana. So it gets to Montana Monday night, Christmas Day Eve, and technically they could have delivered it the next day, but they didn't. They let it sit. They tortured me for another 24 hours. But anyways, all's well that ends well. Today it showed up. And then the final funny story about UPS, so UPS gives you a window of delivery potential time, and usually it's a 3-hour window. But today it was a 4-hour window. It said they would deliver it between 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock. And at 12:45 the truck pulls up and that's my guitar. So much for UPS's weird algorithm that should be a lot smarter with artificial intelligence. It should know how many packages are on that truck, the general route of travel. They're just really inaccurate, poorly run company. But anyways, UPS has logic, Amazon has logic, and I have logic, and they're different logics, and none of them are necessarily right or wrong. So thank you very much for joining me. Again, I wish I could play this for you, but again, my skill and ability would not do it justice, and my equipment. I would be recording this through the head of a pin-sized microphone on a little tiny digital camera, and it just wouldn't do it any justice. But trust me when I say this. If you're interested in something that sounds different, it's not a $2,000 Fender Acoustasonic. It's not a humbucker kind of Les Paul kind of thing. It's not a high cost, I don't know what the high cost is, a Taylor guitar with a, I forgot what kind of bridge saddle pickups they use. It's not that sensitive. It's not that, but it's cool. It's cool. It's sort of lo-fi, right? If you're into that lo-fi thing, it's really about the music that you make. And if you're enjoying the music that you make, I've got all kinds of guitars, and the truth is time goes on, the cheaper the better. And the example of that is this crazy guitar here, this Garrett guitar, which I absolutely love. And it originally was selling for $219. They dropped it down to $130, and then they blew them out the door for $64 with a crappy soft case and accessories. And I love this guitar. Not like I would love a woman or like I love God or anything like that, but in the realm of loving a guitar, it's a great guitar, and it satisfies Les Paul with P90s all day long, and it's well made. For the fact that it's probably the lowest quality materials on planet Earth, but the tuners work and the pickups work and the switch works, and it puts out nice tones. It's got the best fret ends of almost any guitar I've ever had. They're rounded fret ends, and they're absolutely just smooth as butter. And for $64.98 delivered to my front door. So, whoa, whoa, whoa. The golden age of the budget guitar is here. My sweetheart read me an article this morning about how the lead solo is dead and the guitar god is over. And she's right. The era of the guitar being the primary instrument in popular music has come and gone. It lasted longer than anyone ever expected it would. The classic line from the record executive who was going to sign the Beatles was, "Oh, guitar groups are out." And that was in 1964. So it lasted longer than anyone could expect. Guitars will always be around. You know, if you look back to the 40s, there was always a guitar in the background, right? And the trumpet was the lead instrument, and then the clarinet was the lead instrument, and people used the trombone as the lead instrument, and then in the 50s, the saxophone was the lead instrument. So guitar will always be part of the music scene, but it just, at least for now, it's sort of fading back into the background. But for the home hobbyist like myself, who likes to sit home and play in the living room lounge to a standing room only crowd of one, it's funny that they're making guitars now. Because I look at ads from the 60s, and the cheap guitars in the 60s were $60, $70, $80, $150, and most of them were crap. I mean, they were just being churned out to satisfy a guitar craze, but they weren't quality instruments at all. And this, and I've owned a lot of guitars, is a nice mid-quality, looks like it's well put together. I mean, again, if it falls apart tomorrow, then I'll have to eat my words. But today, it's not falling apart. Today, it's right here, right in front of me. It's a nice guitar. So anyways, for the third and the final time, this is an IYV ILAP 300. It is December the 27th, 2023, getting ready to close out this year. And I can say with confidence, unless... well, I can't say with confidence. There's still 4 days to go. Who knows? But I do believe this is the last guitar of 2023. And I appreciate everyone who stops in, takes a look, takes a listen. Again, I'm repeating this as well. These reviews were originally designed just for me. 5-6 years ago, I bought a Epiphone ES339, and I pulled it out of the box, and the neck was cracked. And I wasn't recording it, and I thought, okay, I should record these. So I record them coming straight out of the box, and if there's any issues, then I've got video proof that I got a loser. But this guitar, again, I see nothing other than a few smudge marks, and they're not even worth mentioning. It's just a really, and it does have a, I wouldn't call it an arch, but, you know, like a Les Paul, it has a bit of a hump here. It's not flat, the back is flat, as you would expect, but just a really nice guitar. Anyways, thank you for dropping in. Have a good, happy, safe New Year, and thank you very much.